Look at yourself. No, really look. Beyond the smile you practice for your coworkers, beyond the "I'm fine" you tell your parents. You're tired, aren't you? Not the "I need a nap" kind of tired. You're soul tired. You've been carrying a version of yourself that died a year ago, and you're terrified that this mediocrity, this almost life, is all there is. We're told to never give up as if it's as easy as flipping a switch, but they don't tell you about the 3 a.m. silence that feels like it's crushing your ribs. They don't tell you that sometimes the hardest part isn't the failure itself, it's the shame of having to start over when everyone else seems to be winning. You feel like a ghost in your own life, watching your dreams turn into maybe some days and then into never minds. But what if I told you that the breaking you feel right now isn't a funeral? What if it's a birth? The greats, the poets, the titans, the survivors, they all reached this exact ledge. Robert Frost stood in the dark woods. Maya Angelou faced the cage. They didn't survive because they were lucky. They survived because they realized that the fire doesn't consume the gold. It only burns away the dross. In the next few minutes, I'm not going to give you motivation. Motivation is a spark that dies in the wind. I'm going to give you an architecture. I'm going to show you how to take that heavy silence and turn it into a foundation. We are going through the 7 stages of a total soul reconstruction, from the weight of silence to the dawn within.
The weight of silence. The heaviest thing you will ever carry isn't a physical burden. It's the things you haven't said. It's the screams you swallowed during dinner, the tears you wiped away before opening the door, and the mounting evidence, at least in your own mind, that you are failing at the very art of existing. We live in a world that is obsessed with the noise of success. We see the highlight reels, the filtered smiles, and the loud proclamations of victory, but nobody talks about the weight of silence. This is the stage of the journey where the lights are off. You are sitting in the wreckage of a plan that didn't work. Maybe it's a career that plateaued, a dream that was laughed out of the room, or a version of yourself you no longer recognize in the mirror. In this silence, your mind becomes a courtroom where you are both the defendant and the hanging judge. You replay your mistakes like a broken film strip. If only I had worked harder. If only I hadn't said that. Why is everyone else moving forward while I'm stuck in this glue? This internal struggle is exhausting because it's invisible. You walk through the grocery store, you respond to emails, and you tell people, "I'm fine," while internally you are gasping for air. There is a specific kind of loneliness that comes from being misunderstood by the world, but it pales in comparison to the loneliness of being disappointed in yourself. We often think that giving up is a loud, dramatic event, a white flag thrown in the air, but usually it's quiet. It's the slow erosion of hope. It's the day you stop looking at the horizon and start looking at your feet. You begin to believe that the darkness isn't just a tunnel you're passing through, but the home where you belong. But I want you to lean into this silence for a moment. Don't run from it. Don't drown it out with mindless scrolling or distractions. Feel the ache. Why? Because the weight you feel right now is actually a form of internal gravity. It is pulling you down to the bedrock of who you really are. You cannot build a skyscraper on a swamp. You have to dig until you hit the stone. This period of stuckness, this suffocating silence, is the digging. You aren't being buried, you are being prepared. The weight is heavy because it is shaping the muscle of your spirit. Before you can never give up, you have to acknowledge how much it hurts to hold on. You have to admit that you are tired. There is a profound, holy honesty in saying, "I don't know how to do this anymore," because it is only when you are completely emptied of your ego and your perfect plans that you have space for something much stronger to enter. The silence isn't your enemy, it's the canvas. And though the weight feels like it might break you, remember, a seed only starts to crack open when the pressure of the earth becomes unbearable. Echoes of the greats. When the silence of chapter 1 becomes too loud, we often find that our own voice isn't enough to pull us out of it. We need a sturdier bridge. We need the voices of those who walked through the same valley centuries ago and left behind breadcrumbs of light. You see, your pain isn't new, it's ancient. And because it is ancient, there is already a map for it, drawn by the poets and the madmen who refuse to let the darkness have the final word. Think of Robert Frost. He stood at the edge of those snowy woods, realizing that life is often a choice between the easy path and the one that actually matters. He whispered to us that the only way out is through. He didn't say the way out is around the pain or under the struggle. He meant that you have to walk straight into the heart of the fire to come out forged on the other side. When you feel like giving up, Frost reminds you that you have miles to go before you sleep, not as a chore, but as a testament to the untapped distance still left in your soul. Then there is Maya Angelou, a woman who knew that life would try to shorten your breath and dim your light. She taught us that you may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated. There is a radical difference between the two. A defeat is an event. Being defeated is a spirit. Angelou's words act like a spine straightener. They remind you that even if you are battered, you are still the master of the rising. Like dust, like air, like the tide, you rise. And how can we navigate the dark without Rumi? He is the one who gently pulls our chin up to look at our wounds and says, the wound is the place where the light enters you. Think about that. The very area where you feel most broken, the failure, the rejection, the loss, is actually the crack in your armor that allows grace to find its way in. Without the crack, you would be a closed box, stagnant and cold. Your brokenness isn't a defect, it's an opening. Then, when you feel the world is trying to silence your ambition, Dylan Thomas roars from the past. Do not go gentle into that good night. He begs you to rage against the dying of the light. This isn't a call to anger, but a call to life. It's a refusal to let your dreams go out with a whimper. It's the stubborn, beautiful insistence that as long as there is a pulse in your wrist, there is a war to be won. Finally, we hear from Emily Dickinson, the queen of the quiet interior. She tells us that hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul. It's a small, fragile thing, isn't it? It doesn't demand attention with a trumpet. It just sits there, singing the tune without the words, and it never stops at all. These poets are not just names in a textbook. They are your comrades in arms. They provide the echoes that remind you that the human spirit is a reoccurring miracle. When you read them, you realize you are part of a long, prestigious lineage of people who suffered, doubted, and nearly quit, but didn't. Their words are the lantern. They don't remove the darkness, but they show you exactly where to put your foot next so you don't stumble. You are walking in the footsteps of giants. Now it's time to start walking like one. The breaking point. There is a moment in every transformation that feels less like a beginning and more like an ending. It is the moment where the rubber meets the road, where the weight of silence and the echoes of the greats collide with the cold, hard reality of your current life. We call this the breaking point. Most people fear this moment. They see it as the sign to finally walk away, to admit defeat, and to settle for a life of quiet desperation. But the truth is, the breaking point is the most sacred part of the journey. It is the threshold. It is that midnight hour where the pain of staying exactly where you are, stuck in the same habits, the same fears, the same smallness, finally becomes more agonizing than the fear of the unknown. Think of a piece of iron. To become a sword, it cannot simply decide to be sharp. It must be thrown into a furnace so hot that its very structure begins to fail. It must be struck by a hammer so heavy that it vibrates to its core. The iron might feel like it is being destroyed, but it is actually being redefined. The breaking point happens when you finally stop lying to yourself. It's when you look in the mirror and say, I cannot live like this for one more day. It is the death of the old you. And let's be honest, that death hurts. It's messy. It involves letting go of the excuses that kept you warm at night. It means admitting that the reason you haven't moved forward isn't just bad luck or the economy or them. It's because you were afraid to be seen trying.
In this chapter of your life, you are like a diver at the bottom of the ocean. The pressure is immense, the light is dim, and your lungs are screaming. But it is precisely that pressure that forces you to kick. It is the desperation for air that gives you the strength to move towards the surface with a ferocity you didn't know you possessed. When you hit the breaking point, you stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for a sign. You realize that you are the sign. You recognize that never giving up isn't a grand heroic charge up a hill. It's the stubborn refusal to let your current circumstances be the final period at the end of your sentence. You might feel broken right now. You might feel like you've reached your limit. But remember, a glass must be shattered to be recycled into something new. A forest must sometimes burn to clear the path for new growth. This isn't your destruction, it is your deconstruction. You are shedding the skin that no longer fits the soul you are becoming. The breaking point is where your why becomes louder than your how. You don't need to know every step of the 10-mile hike yet. You just need to be so fed up with the valley that you start climbing. This is the moment of radical choice. The world is waiting to see if you will crumble into dust or if you will compress into a diamond. Hold on, don't blink. The breakthrough is usually hidden just 3 inches behind the breakdown.
The architecture of change. After the collapse comes the blueprint. If Chapter 3 was the fire that leveled the old building, Chapter 4 is the quiet, disciplined work of laying the first brick of the new one. Real change is rarely a lightning bolt. It is an architectural feat. It requires a blueprinting of the soul, a deliberate, sometimes tedious process of redesigning your days to support the weight of your dreams. This is where never giving up transitions from a feeling into a system. Most people fail here because they try to build the roof before the foundation is dry. They want the glory of the finish line without the anonymity of the training ground. But you are going to build differently. You are going to start with the foundation of radical honesty. This means looking at your life, your habits, your circle, your inner monologue, and asking, does this serve the person I am becoming, or does it comfort the person I am leaving behind? The architecture of change is built on 3 pillars. 1. The pillar of micro-victories. When you are at your lowest, a big goal can feel like a mountain that wants to crush you. The secret to resilience is to shrink the mountain into a pebble. Don't try to fix your life today. Just win the next 10 minutes. Drink the water. Write the 1 sentence. Make the 1 difficult phone call. These are micro-victories. They are the mortar between your bricks. Each one sends a message to your brain. I am a person who keeps my word to myself. The pillar of emotional boundaries. You cannot build a cathedral in a war zone. You must protect your workspace, both physical and mental. This means auditing who gets access to your energy. If someone constantly reminds you of your breaking point, but never celebrates your architecture, they do not belong in your inner sanctum. As Maya Angelou once said, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Protect your peace as if your life depends on it, because the version of you that survives depends on it. The pillar of gracious discipline. Discipline is often painted as a cold, harsh master, but true discipline is an act of self-love. It is saying, I love my future self too much to let my current laziness cheat them. However, this discipline must be gracious. You will stumble. A brick will crack. When it does, do not tear down the whole wall in frustration. Simply replace the brick and keep building. In this stage, you must become a student of your own behavior. Notice the triggers that make you want to quit. Is it exhaustion? Is it the fear of judgment? Label them. When you name a ghost, it loses its power to haunt you. Remember, the new you isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a structure you inhabit. It's the way you breathe when things go wrong. It's the ritual of showing up when you'd rather hide. You are moving from a life of reaction to a life of intention. You aren't just surviving the storm anymore. You are building a ship that knows how to use the wind. The architecture of change isn't flashy. It's quiet. It's early mornings and lonely nights. It's the sound of a hammer hitting a nail in the dark.
But one day, you will look up and realize you are standing inside a life that you no longer need to escape from. The crucible. If the architecture of change was the blueprint, the crucible is the moment the structure is tested by a hurricane. In alchemy, a crucible is a container that can withstand extreme heat, used to melt substances so they can be purified. In the journey of the human spirit, the crucible is that phase where life decides to test whether your new discipline is a hollow shell or a solid core. This is the hardest part of the journey. It's the middle of the marathon where the initial excitement of starting over has evaporated and the finish line is nowhere in sight. This is the stage where the universe asks, do you really want this, or were you just in love with the idea of it? In the crucible, everything that can go wrong often does. You've been working on yourself, you've been disciplined, you've been building, and then you lose a job, or a health scare happens, or someone you love looks at the new you and says, I liked the old one better. This is the friction of growth. It is designed to burn away your remaining insecurities. Think of Emily Dickinson's Hope again. In the crucible, that little bird with feathers doesn't just sing, it has to survive a gale. As she wrote, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. The storm in your life right now isn't there to stop you, it's there to see if your hope has teeth. Resilience isn't the absence of pressure, it is the ability to maintain your shape under pressure. During this phase, you will experience the great temptation. The temptation is to go back, to retreat into the comfortable misery of your old life, because at least you knew the rules there. The crucible makes you feel foolish for trying. It whispers that you're a tryhard or a fraud. It uses your exhaustion as a weapon against your vision. How do you survive the fire? You survive by shifting your focus from the outcome to the process. When you are in the heat, don't look at the whole mountain. Look at your feet. You survive by remembering that the heat isn't destroying you, it is melting the dross. Every doubt you conquer in the crucible becomes a permanent part of your strength. Every time you say no to the voice that tells you to quit when you are tired, you are adding a layer of armor to your soul. This is where the wisdom of Dylan Thomas becomes your war cry. You rage against the dying of the light, not by screaming, but by persisting. By showing up to the gym when you feel weak, by sitting down to work when you feel uninspired, by choosing kindness when you feel bitter. The crucible is where never giving up becomes your identity. Before the fire, it was a slogan. After the fire, it is your DNA. When you walk out of this stage, you are no longer a person who is trying to be strong. You are a person who is strong, because you have been through the heat and didn't melt. You are now the gold that has been tried in the fire. You are almost there. The air is starting to change. The heat is intense because the transformation is nearly complete. Stand your ground. The dawn within. There is a specific kind of silence that exists just before the sun breaks the horizon. It is no longer the heavy, suffocating silence of chapter 1, but a quiet, expectant stillness. This is the dawn within. It is the moment you realize that the storm hasn't just passed, it has cleared the air. You look around, and for the first time in a long time, you can see for miles. In this stage of your journey, the new you isn't a project anymore, it's a presence. You start to notice small, profound shifts in your internal weather. When a problem arises, your first instinct is no longer to panic or hide, but to breathe and solve. When someone criticizes you, the words don't pierce your skin the way they used to. They hit the armor you forged in the crucible and fall harmlessly to the floor. This is the beauty of growth that no one tells you about. It's not about becoming a superhero. It's about becoming settled. You finally stop fighting yourself. You find a quiet, unshakable peace in your own worth that doesn't require a standing ovation from the world. Think of Rumi's wisdom here. He said, "Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself." In the dawn within, you realize that the greatest victory you will ever win wasn't an enemy, a competitor, or a bank balance. It was the victory over your own fear. You have changed your internal climate, and because of that, you can thrive in any external weather.
You also start to see your scars differently. You used to look at your failures as stains on your record. Now you see them as the kintsugi of the soul, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold. The cracks are still there, but they are what make you beautiful and valuable. You realize that your never-give-up spirit didn't make you perfect, it made you authentic. As the light grows stronger, you feel a new kind of energy. It isn't the frantic, desperate energy of the struggle. It's the steady, glowing hum of a person who knows their purpose. You start to attract different people and different opportunities because your vibration has changed. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are the architect of your destiny. The dawn within is the realization that the light at the end of the tunnel wasn't a train coming to hit you, and it wasn't a distant exit. The light was inside you all along. You just needed the darkness to be deep enough for you to finally see it. You are not the person who started this journey. You are someone wiser, kinder, and infinitely more powerful.
The final echo. We have come a long way, haven't we? From the suffocating weight of that first midnight to the quiet gold of the inner dawn. But before we part ways, there is one final thing you must understand. The journey of never giving up is not a circle that closes. It is a spiral that ascends. You will face new silences, new crucibles, and new storms. But the difference is that now you know the way home. The final echo is the legacy of your resilience. It is the realization that your struggle was never just for you. Every time you chose to get back up, every time you whispered, "Not today," to the darkness, you were emitting a frequency, a signal that others can now follow. Your life has become a living poem, a testament to the fact that the human spirit is the only thing in the universe that grows stronger the more it is challenged. Think of the words of Maya Angelou one last time. A bird doesn't sing because it has an answer. It sings because it has a song. Your life is that song. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be finished to be beautiful. It just needs to be sung with everything you've got. The final echo is the sound of your courage reverberating in the lives of the people you touch. When you don't give up, you give others permission to stay in the fight. You become the echo of the great for someone else who is currently stuck in chapter 1. As you move forward, keep these final 3 truths in your pocket. 1. Persistence is a form of worship. It is how you honor the life you were given. To quit is to say the gift wasn't worth the effort. To persist is to say thank you with every step. 2. The journey is the reward. The goal wasn't to reach the top of the mountain just to stand there. It was to become the person capable of climbing it. 3. You are unstoppable, not because you never fall, but because you never stay down. Success is simply the ability to go from failure to failure without a loss of enthusiasm. Now, take a deep breath. Feel the air in your lungs, that same air that felt like lead just chapters ago. It's light now, isn't it? That's because you've shed the weight of who you thought you had to be and embraced who you actually are. The world is waiting for your next move, not the perfect move, not the impressive move, but the honest move. Go back into the world, not as a survivor, but as a conqueror. Not as someone who is afraid of the dark, but as someone who carries the sun in their pocket. Your story isn't over. In fact, the most beautiful chapters haven't even been written yet. So, whatever you do, whatever happens next, remember the silence, remember the poets, remember the fire, and above all, never give up. This is your final echo. Let it ring.